minimizing mortgage penalties. Ernie, a Toronto lawyer who sold his house last year, learned a very expensive lesson. He was one of the many victims of mortgage penalties. According to his own calculations, a mortgage balance of $300,000 at 5.25% with 2 years left on a 5-year mortgage should come out to be approximately $4,000. Now, to his surprise, that his bank was using a different calculation. They used 7.55% instead of the 5.25% that he expected. The interest rate differential, or the gap between his current mortgage rate and the going rate for the balance of the term, is 4.3%. Well, this translates to a penalty of over $27,000 to leave the bank he's with. This is $24,000 more than he expected. As a lawyer, his knowledge of the contract law did not help. The IRD calculation was in the fine print. In fact, a lot of times it's not even in the contract. The banks are getting away with charging these high fees because most consumers do not ask the right questions. Before you sign any mortgage document, you should ask yourself the right questions. Now, here are some of the questions you should ask your lenders. Well, are you using discounted rate or posted rate for IRD calculations? What is the current rate based on? Is it based on the lowest possible discounted rate or based on the posted rate? Is it based on bond rate or mortgage rate? Are there any reinvestment fees or any other sorts of fees involved? What you're trying to do is to make sure that the gap between your current rate and the rate they use is as small as possible. Otherwise, your interest rate differential will become very high. Now, keeping in mind that your lender loves IRD, these are the things they use as a profit center. Most people still think that the penalty is 3 months interest. However, since the rates have dropped in recent years, IRD, or the so-called interest rate differential, based on gap between the original rate and the rate for the remaining term, the outstanding balance, and the months left is always used. IRD is a profit center for the banks. There are no standardization on the calculations. The disclosure is minimal, if at all. The Canadian government is paying lip service right now about making changes to protect the Canadians. However, with the upcoming election, it's probably not a high priority item, and I don't expect to see changes on that from the government soon. Here are some tips on how to lower your mortgage penalties. The first thing I would suggest is think twice about taking a closed mortgage. Why? There are other options. Is open mortgage or variable rate mortgage an option? Of course, there are pros and cons about each option and should be weighted out properly. Perhaps consider a 3 or 4 year term. The average Canadian mortgage held is 3 year, and you'll find that most banks would like to push for 5 year so they can charge penalties when you break the mortgage. This is a very profitable thing for them to do. Get your IRD calculations in writing. This should be part of your mortgage document. Make sure the rate you're offered is a discounted rate that will not be grossed up when you want to leave. Here's another thing you can do. Make sure that your lender will let you make a prepayment. Yes, you can utilize your prepayment privilege to lower penalties. Most institutions would allow you a 10 to perhaps a 25% prepayment privilege. However, most people do not have the 10% or the 25% cash to pay down the mortgage. Some lender, such as ING, would allow you to reduce your balance by up to 25% for the IRD calculation. Even if you don't have the cash, they would allow you to do so, and this here would enable you to save up to 25% on your penalty costs. As it is often quoted, knowledge is not power, but the application of knowledge is power. This is why working with a professional mortgage broker would save you thousands of dollars, especially someone with the title of AMP, the accredited mortgage professional. And AMP have ongoing education about mortgage product and the mortgage market. We also carry an error and omission liability insurance to protect the consumer. As a final advice, I would like to share with you how I work with my clients. We use four basic fundamental principles. The very first one is this: we structure your mortgage with peace of mind. The second thing we do is we start with manageable cash flow. The third thing is we make sure you have the ability to unmortgage in 12 years or less. And the fourth and final fundamental tip is that your mortgage should help you build equity, build passive income, and build retirement income. Hi. Do what? Yeah, you can. Just make sure they don't smoke so much that we set the alarm off. Oh, I still recording? Shoot.